What if you could immediately 10x the value you offer your clients using a skill you already have without changing a thing about your core business and multiplying what you earn? Even those who are already successful at winning new work can forget this one principle, which allows you to win more work while avoiding being salesy. It's the kind way to get ahead in your career, but most professionals aren't doing it. Instead, they might be accidentally hurting both themselves and their clients. Here's what I mean. When I started working with my personal training instructor, we had an onboarding conversation like this. I told him I wanted to get leaner and faster. He asked me how much time I had to invest in this, and given all my travel, I thought I could fit in a workout with him once a week. He said, "Sounds great," and set me up. By this point, he'd already made the same mistake you might be making. Let me show you what I mean. A few sessions later, between sets of split squats, we were talking about my progress. I was happy overall, but I felt like I could be going faster. What he said next shocked me. If I worked out with him twice a week, instead of once, I could speed up my progress by 4 times. What? Why didn't he tell me that earlier? I told him that if I knew I had been slowing down my progress that much by only coming once, I would have happily signed up for more sessions. 4 times faster progress for just 1 session of additional effort. That sounds great. After giving him a hard time, I asked further, why didn't he mention this to me as we were figuring out how we should work together? He revealed something I think most of us can relate to. He said, I didn't want to come across as salesy. He went on to explain that he was worried that if he pushed for more sessions, it would feel like he was trying to make more money, and it might affect the trust in our relationship. The reality, in fact, was the opposite. I didn't know what I was missing. And without the expert information he was withholding, I went right down the wrong path. This is the most common mistake I see when it comes to developing business and growing your relationships. We worry about hurting the prospect and being salesy. We want to be kind, but instead, we're accidentally cruel. The kind approach would be sharing our expertise during the buying process. I call this transformation going from clueless to competence. Before you close a deal, it's easy to avoid leaning into what appears to be a tough part of the conversation. Instead, you pretend to be clueless. Whatever the client wants, goes. You hope that they pick the best solutions for themselves, and if there's something that might help them more, you feign ignorance. Don't want to rock the boat? Don't be pushy. Then, once they buy and the service is being delivered, a magical transformation takes place. Suddenly, you're full of competence. You are the expert. You're ready to advise, to share your insights openly. You make recommendations, correct misconceptions, and help the client find their best path forward. Why does this happen? What is keeping us from being an expert when it matters before the client purchases? Here are 3 moves or shifts in your approach that will transform your relationship with a potential client. First up, this is the focus shift. When you have something valuable to share with a client, there are many things you can focus on. Your own discomfort and how you're feeling, ways you might benefit from the work, what the other person is thinking about you. Some of these things might make you feel bad. Others might make you feel like you're being thoughtful or kind. But focusing on these things will lead to behaviors that don't serve your client and won't help you share your expertise. When my fitness instructor first started speaking to me, he wasn't pushy. My purchase wasn't his main focus. Instead, he was focused on something else, something that seems innocent, trying to make me happy. And one potential strategy to make me happy is to give me exactly what I think I need. Instead of rocking the boat, this approach minimizes the chances that your prospect feels sold to. You follow exactly the plan that they propose, or at a minimum, you avoid leaning into what they really need versus what they think they need. But when you do that, you let the least qualified person in the room set the direction. By focusing on not upsetting me, my trainer was doing me a disservice, hiding his expertise. So how can you shift focus to the right thing? There's one thing to focus on above everything else: the client's desired outcome. My desired outcome wasn't to hear that I had the right approach, and it wasn't to avoid spending money. I came there to buy something. My desired outcome was to get leaner and faster, and I was happy to work hard to get there. And the best deal is the one that's most effective at making that outcome happen. In other words, you must shift focus and do everything in your power to determine, based on the client's responses, what outcome they're actually looking for. But listening for a client's desired outcome is different from listening for a method they suggest to you for getting there. An outcome is the result you both want. A method is just one of many ways you might get there together. I might have some ideas as to the method to achieve my training goals. Maybe I just need one session a week. Maybe I can eat whatever I want. But those methods probably aren't ideal. So for now, table any suggestions the client has. We'll talk through how to use that suggestion as a springboard for you to suggest the actual best route forward in a moment. Remember, after you win the work, you suddenly feel free to give advice. You are liberated from feeling salesy. You just want to help. So take that same spirit and apply it to before the deal is won. Stop focusing on any of the following: whether your recommendation means you get paid more, whether your recommendation sounds too expensive, whether the client feels sold to, or if you're coming across as pushy. We do want to avoid all those things, but the way to avoid them isn't to focus on them. Instead, think about these things. What is the client's goal? And how can I get them there? What might the client want to consider that would help them more than their current plan? What ideas are important to help the client understand so they can pick an option that helps them the most? The way to stop being pushy is to focus on getting the client the best outcome possible, not to fixate on if you're being pushy or not. Shift the focus to the client's needs, and over time, your worries about pushiness will vanish. But now that we've shifted to focus on the right question, it's time for our next move: a mindset shift. You've probably had terrible experiences being sold to and hated every minute of it. As a 35-year business development professional, I've heard every horror story. Here's what a bad buying experience usually feels like. You know more than they did. You came in as an informed buyer and ended up being told things you knew were wrong, or actually had to help them understand what their solutions can and can't do. They were pushy. Instead of taking the time to figure out what you wanted, they tried to force you to make a decision. You were steered to an expensive option, even though that option wasn't aligned with what you needed. They used excessive jargon. Instead of helping you understand, they made things confusing and masked it in words that weren't clear to you. It was generic. They had a script, or they jumped to an answer before they learned any specifics about the problem you're having. All of us have experienced some flavor of this horror story, but you probably aren't remembering, because of how human brains work, are all the times that it was wonderful to buy something. Try to come up with an example in your head. Here's mine. A few years back, I wanted to renovate my basement into a game room, designed to look like it was straight out of the 1930s. I did some research and found a company called Historical Concepts. I reached out, and an architect named Andrew responded and met me at my home soon after. Once he arrived, Andrew asked me questions about what my wife and I wanted to achieve with the project. He seemed as excited or more excited about the plans than even I was, digging into how we envisioned our family using the space, sharing his enthusiasm and knowledge about our home's original 1930s architect, and confirming that he understood our vision. Once he confirmed my outcome, Andrew narrowed down ideas and sketched out some real possibilities in real time. He focused entirely on what mattered most to us and suggested new ideas we hadn't come up with but were totally in sync with our vision. The result felt like hanging out with a really smart friend. Everything felt clear, energetic, and I left full of forward momentum. And obviously, Andrew won the work, and my wife and I were delighted with the results. The reality is that whether a buying conversation is great or disastrous is completely within your control. Instead of viewing yourself as a pushy salesperson, which you won't be if you're watching this video, envision yourself as a friendly expert. Talking with a friendly expert is a gift. When you get in a limo, do you expect to be the one in the driver's seat? No. You get in the back, tell them where you want to go, and get comfy while they deliver you to your destination. Let's shift our mindset and imagine how your clients will feel once you allow yourself to be the helpful expert instead of hiding your recommendations from them during the buying process. Your client will feel like you were proactive and actively listened and came up with ideas that felt custom fit to the things you were hearing. Your client will feel smarter after talking with you than they were before. Because you walk them through your expertise with enthusiasm, they understand and appreciate your work better than before. Your client will feel more confident because you've reduced ambiguity and the options available to just the ones that make the most sense. Your client will feel like you focused on their goals because everything you suggested is aligned to their most important outcome, no matter what the method is. They're confident they're taken care of. In other words, purchasing from you will feel awesome. And if that's the case, it's your obligation to make sure to share everything you can before they buy. Okay, we've shifted focus and we've shifted our mindset. Now, we'll focus on shifting our method. Again, when you're talking to a potential buyer, it's important to listen for the outcome they're trying to solve. And in the process, you'll likely ask what they've already tried in the past. They will likely share examples and explain what has or hasn't worked. In the process, it's also likely that they'll share what they think will help solve their problem going forward. Almost no one enters a conversation like this with zero idea of a potential solution. But remember, you're the expert. So it's your obligation to provide the best options to move forward, not to act clueless and run with whatever solution the client comes up with on the spot. Instead, keep asking great questions and tuck away the potential method or solution that they've mentioned. Then, once you've got enough information to know what the best solution is, you're going to bring that proposed solution back, then politely contrast it with a better one. I call this the method shift. Here's how it would have worked if my personal trainer had used it on me. Hey Mo, I hear what you're saying. It sounds like your goal is to get leaner and faster without having to spend every single day in the gym. You mentioned coming in once a week for a session. That's going to be great and will definitely get you closer to your goal. I'll make sure it works for your schedule and we'll build a plan based on everything we discussed. Pause here. This is my trainer outlining the outcome I'm looking for and mentioning the original method I proposed. But he doesn't stop there. Let's keep going. That said, one thing you might want to know is that I've found working with people with a similar goal is that when they come in twice a week, their progress goes about 4 times faster, which is crazy. But because your muscles are primed for growth and recovery, you actually get way more results than if you wait a full week between workouts. So here my trainer has mentioned that I can achieve my outcome even more efficiently with a new method. He's affirmed option 1, then proposed shifting to option 2, which matches my goals even better. Then he closes by summarizing. 1 workout a week is great. You'll definitely move forward, but you might want to consider that sweet spot for effective muscle growth is between 2 and 3 workouts a week. So we could either start there or work our way up to that if you'd like to begin with just 1. What would work best for you? This is the expert level move of a professional who wants to help me make the most progress possible. If I'm not able to take the new option, then I can always go back to the original plan. But if he'd presented it this way from the start, I'd have saved myself time and energy, and he'd have booked more value up front. To use the method shift technique, follow these steps. Confirm the outcome the client is looking for. Affirm the merits of the client's stated solution. Then shift to suggest a solution with an even higher chance of success as an alternative. This is how you can honor the client's suggestions while honoring the obligation you have to share your recommendation with them, because they deserve the gift of your expertise. These 3 shifts are just a few lessons that I've learned in over 3 decades in the world of business development. For a deeper dive, watch this video next, or check out my book, Give to Grow, where I talk about all of this and a lot more in much more detail. Thanks, and talk more soon.